And hello, everyone. Welcome to our Trading Indicators Tech Talk. Today's topic is smarter trading with the brand new MotiveWave 7 platform. My name is Daniel Sinek, and I'm greeting you today from our beautiful office here in Montreal, in Canada. And before we get started, let me ask you guys a question. Where are you calling in from? Who do we have in the room today? We have a fully packed room. Who do we have? Please put your location into the Q&A box of your Zoom tool. Who do we have in the room today? All right. So let's see. Who do we have? So we have Nicholas in the room from Montreal as well. We have, let's see. We have Logan from Santa Cruz, California. Hey, Logan, how's it going? We have Ralph from Winnipeg. Hey, Ralph, how are you? Tim from Las Vegas. George from sunny Florida. Very nice. We actually just came out of a heat wave here in Montreal. It was unusually hot, but today it's cold again. Today was only around 18 degrees. Daryl from Vancouver. Hey, Daryl, how's it going? Chris from Northern California. Hey, Chris, good to see you again. Scott from Austin, Texas. Gerald from Santa Fe. Hey, Gerald, how are you? Earl from Milford, Pennsylvania. Hey, Earl. Rick from Winnipeg. And we have Los Angeles in the room. We have Clifton from Ann Arbor, Michigan, or Arbor, if that's correct. All right, perfect, guys. Well, thank you so much for sharing your location. And, it's a very special event today because MotiveWave is a platform which is very near and close to our hearts because we at Trading Indicators, our success story basically has started with MotiveWave. So I want to use this chance to congratulate, first of all, MotiveWave on their success as well. Version 7 is out there in its beta form, and we thought, well, it's time to have a tech talk on this brand new version of MotiveWave, and especially also to showcase to you how our flagship indicators and our trading tools are working with this brand new version of MotiveWave. And just a bit of background. So we started off developing as an exclusive developer for MotiveWave more than 10 years ago. And over those years, we have literally written, I would say, probably 500 different studies and automated trading strategies for MotiveWave. So we have extensive experience developing MotiveWave products, and we've also been acting as an educator for programming services for MotiveWave. So it's been quite a ride. The folks at MotiveWave, they're super nice people. We know them personally to some degree, and yeah, we're very thankful to MotiveWave for this. All right, now, what have we developed for MotiveWave? Just a quick review or overview to just ease into today's topic. So we, for example, have developed a tool which you may know called the Strategy Builder for MotiveWave, which, as the name suggests, allows you to create fully automated trading strategies for MotiveWave with just a couple of clicks. No programming is required. And in fact, today, in the second part of today's presentation, we're going to show you how this strategy builder will work for MotiveWave. So that's one example. Another example is we have developed or ported the entire Think or Swim study library to MotiveWave. 300 plus studies. We've taken them each one by one and ported them over to MotiveWave. It was a lot of work, but it was very well appreciated by our users because now you have hundreds, more than 300 studies extra available in your MotiveWave platform. Of course, this is also compatible with the latest MotiveWave version. Then moving on, we have developed our power bundle and optimized our power bundle for MotiveWave as well. If you are familiar with these indicators, these are auto-optimizing indicators, which will, depending on the market conditions, depending on the time frame at hand and the symbol at hand, they will automatically optimize their settings so that the trade signals have optimal quality, basically giving you the highest win rates. Moving on, one of our latest innovations for MotiveWave are our Liquidity IQ and our MA Rush indicator. Liquidity IQ, for example, an indicator specializing on the identification of key levels on your chart, which are often acting as resistance levels or as support levels. And knowing where these levels are and knowing where price is in relation to these levels helps you to identify very interesting trade setups, which often have a very high reward to risk ratio. And then our latest innovation from MotiveWave was a brand new volume indicator. We call it volume IQ, a volume profile indicator. You can see it here on the right-hand side, which exceeds the normal capabilities of volume profiles with extra information. For example, it gives you the trend bias, it gives you clearly defined action zones, it shows you whether there are more buyers or sellers at a certain price level, and so forth. And how we can use all these indicators for MotiveWave 7 or within MotiveWave 7 to identify interesting and interesting trade setups we're going to discover together today. However, before we do this, a quick introduction of who we are. So I already mentioned it. My name is Daniel Sinning, and I am with one of the creators of tradingindicators.com, a website where we feature all our flagship indicators. And you may have already guessed it, but we do have extensive experience at developing these indicators. Over the years, we have built more than 1,000 of those for various platforms, but of course, many of those also are for MotiveWave. And in fact, MotiveWave is one of our favorite platforms to develop for because it's so powerful. Most of what we do is based on what's called technical analysis, which is basically a mathematical pattern analysis of your price chart. We believe that fundamental information or data is inherently difficult to interpret. And secondly, most of the time, this fundamental information is immediately priced in. And by analyzing your price chart from a technical point of view, you will indirectly also take into account fundamental information. We also think that trading can be simple. And in fact, trading is simple, but a few things need to come together. First off, you need to use the right trading platform like MotiveWave. Secondly, you need to have a clearly defined trading process in place, a couple of steps which you can follow to identify your trades. And thirdly, you need to use the right indicators. And how this all works in conjunction with MotiveWave 7, we're going to see together today in this webinar. Two other things are this webinar is, of course, for you. So if you have any questions, please don't be shy. Put all your questions into the Q&A box. And we're going to get through these questions as I proceed through this presentation. And secondly, of course, this session is also recorded, and the recording will be sent to you shortly after we are done tonight. All right, with this, let's get into it. And today's theme will be take control of your trading success using MotiveWave. A quick reminder, however, before we do this, when you trade futures or FX or stocks or any other asset class, really, keep in mind that trading does contain substantial risk and therefore is not suited for every investor. If you trade, make sure to only use risk capital, which is money that you actually can afford to lose. When it comes to backtest performance or hypothetical performance, keep in mind that this is not necessarily indicative of future performance, and any trade ideas and strategies discussed in this webinar should not be construed as trade advice. These are for educational purposes only. All right. Now, with this out of the way, let's lean back a little bit, let's relax, and let's get started. All right, first off, today's presentation is dedicated to the brand new version of MotiveWave, which is MotiveWave 7. And the keen observer, perhaps, you may already see it here on the screenshot. You can see it has a slightly different look and feel to it. They're using a new UI builder or toolkit to create this version, which is a bit more modern, a bit more up to date. So this is the first indication. Yes, we are dealing with a brand new version of MotiveWave. But the good news is, in addition to this, of course, is that our flagship indicators, they are fully compatible with this new version, and to many degrees also much faster on this brand new MotiveWave 7 version. However, and this is important to point out, currently, this MotiveWave version is still in its beta phase, meaning it is entirely possible that there are still bugs and issues with this version. Please keep this in mind. This is a beta version. I believe it's beta 7 at the time of this recording. It is not the full release yet. And until the full version is not out yet, please always keep this in mind. Yeah, trade at your own risk. There might be bugs which potentially cause errors in your trade execution. Trade small with minimal position sizing, or perhaps only trade on a demo account. Yeah, so please keep this in mind. This is still a beta version, which is a completely normal process. Every new release goes through a beta phase, basically exposing this new version to users who will be testing it, who will be reporting issues and bugs to the MotiveWave crew. And this would then be used to fix this version and to make it ready for the full release. So keep in mind, this is still a beta version at this point. Also, what is important, everything that we're going to show today is also available for MotiveWave 6. Of course, MotiveWave 6 is the previous version. It's fully stable, it's fully released, it's super powerful. So everything you're going to see today is also available for MotiveWave 6. So please keep this in mind. So you don't really need to move to MotiveWave 7 to do what we are doing right now. You can do the same thing to most extent, to the largest extent also on MotiveWave 6. All right, now, what actually do we have planned for today? Let's see what's on the agenda. Well, we're going to start off by discussing some of the brand new features in MotiveWave 7, basically giving you an overview of what you can expect in this new version. Then we're going to move on and we're going to share with you our process, the process that we use internally at Trading Indicators to identify interesting and also powerful trade setups using MotiveWave 7. As you will see, it's a very logical process that everyone can follow. And once again, I said it in the beginning, trading should be simple. The steps that you take, they should make sense and they should be intuitive. And what these steps are and what we do to follow these steps and which indicators we use along the way, we're going to share with you in part 2. Then part 3 is all about automation. And for those of you who trade fully automatically, perhaps for those of you who are too emotional to trade manually, well, this chapter here is for you, where we're going to introduce and review our Strategy Builder Pro for MotiveWave 7, a tool which allows you to simply click together your trading strategy that you have in mind. It's super simple. We're going to show you how this works with MotiveWave 7. And of course, then to celebrate the arrival of this brand new MotiveWave version, we have a special offer for you as well prepared. All right, if this sounds good, let's get started. All right, now what's new in MotiveWave 7? Well, first off, and you may have already seen it on my initial screenshot, the user interface, also called the UI as an abbreviated form. The user interface is now more modern and it has a lot more quality of life features. There are a lot more shortcuts now available in this new version, allowing you to get things accomplished faster to some degree. And this, I think, was one of the main reason why this new version is out there, because a lot of stuff that has been done is for performance reasons to help you as a trader to get things done quicker. So keep this in mind. So the second one, and this is super exciting for us, we are really stoked to learn about this when we read this. The indicator on indicator feature is now available for all MotiveWave version. You may now say, oh my God, what the hell is an indicator on indicator feature? Well, basically, it allows you to use an indicator and base its calculation on the output of another indicator. And you may now say, oh, why would I possibly ever do this? Well, in fact, there are many reasons for this, but one of the main reasons perhaps why you would need such a feature is because our strategy builder requires exactly this feature. And now with the release of MotiveWave 7, you can basically use our strategy builder with any MotiveWave edition, which is super exciting. Before this, you could only use it with the MotiveWave Pro edition. Now it's available for any MotiveWave edition. This is super exciting because now everyone basically who's using MotiveWave can also use our strategy builder. Super cool. All right, moving on. Native cross-trading. What's cross-trading? Well, cross-trading basically is an approach where you do your analysis on one chart. Let's say the micro S&P futures, the MES futures, and then execute your trades on a different symbol, perhaps the mini futures. There is now a feature available within MotiveWave on the charting engine, which allows you to define your cross trades exactly like this. This was not so easy possible in MotiveWave 6. So super exciting for this as well. And some of the prop trader who like to trade big because it's basically trading on a demo account and they need to achieve their profit targets, they may appreciate this feature especially. Improve charting. So charting now, once again, I believe is more modern. There are lots of shortcuts for your charting, and it's also fast. At least this is our experience. The charting engine renders the chart, shows the chart a bit faster than in MotiveWave 6. For the prop traders, once again, if you don't know what prop trading is, basically you need to pass a prop trading challenge to be allowed to go to the earnings phase of a prop challenge, where you can actually earn real money trading. And all you need to pay to get to this stage is a challenge fee, perhaps a couple of $100s. You have to pass the challenge, which is not so easy, but it's possible. And once you are in the earnings phase, then whatever profit you make, you get to keep a portion of this profit. So it's been really hyped up. There are so many prop traders out there. There are so many prop trading firms out there. In fact, I just came back from a conference in Cyprus, and half the people there were actually prop traders. It's really, really a big hype. And MotiveWave has now jumped on this bandwagon and provide adequate support for prop trading. For example, you can now connect to multiple broker connections of the same type within MotiveWave. For example, if you're perhaps doing 3 challenges at the same time, which are all of the same broker, you can now connect to 3 different accounts of that broker within MotiveWave and execute trades for all these 3 accounts. Super convenient and a really nice feature to have. And there are many, many other features under the hood, which perhaps are not visible to you, but they help MotiveWave internally to roll out new features faster in the future and make the execution also more speedy. Dave is asking, when do we expect the full version to be released? I don't know. That's the question for MotiveWave. They are currently in beta 7. I really don't know. I would have to guess when the new version comes out. But typically, I would imagine that by the end of the summer, the full version should be out. But that's a guess I'm having. If you want confirmation on this, perhaps you need to reach out to MotiveWave support. All right. So these are all the new features in MotiveWave. We're going to see the charting and how this all looks like in the platform in just a bit. But let's move on to our second topic. Now, we're going to use MotiveWave 7 to find powerful and interesting trade setups. And trading should not be erratic. Trading should not be chaotic. Trading should not be unstructured. Trading ideally should follow a process, because once you follow a process, it becomes repeatable. And this is exactly what you want, because once you have a clearly defined process, which is repeatable, you can then find pain points in that process. You can find areas for optimization and improvement, but you need to have a process in place. If everything is chaotic, there's not much to optimize there. It's just all over the place. So we want to have a process. One process that we suggest is the following. As you can see, it's a very simple one. It's only 3 steps. We call this 3 steps or 3 easy steps to find powerful trading setups. And here we go. Step number 1 is, what is the story of the market? I'll explain in a second. Step number 2 is, what may the next chapter be? Because once we know what the current market story is, perhaps we can predict what the next market chapter will be all about. And in fact, in trading, you probably have realized this as well. Trading is to some degree about predicting what may be in the future. Where might price be in the future? And this is what we are traders. We're trying to predict what may happen and set up trades accordingly. So we're going to predict what may happen in the next chapter based on step number 1. And then step number 3 is, we are going to wait for confirmation of whether this next chapter is going to unfold the way we anticipated it. So this is our 3-step process. It may sound a bit abstract. Let's get concrete. All right. What is the story of the market? Well, the good news is, to find out what's the current market situation, indicators basically, or our indicators, will tell us exactly what it is. So there's very little room for interpretation left, because our indicators will tell us the story. How does it work? Well, let me show you. All right. So what's the story of the market? Well, we're going to ask a couple of questions. And some people ask more questions, other people ask fewer questions. And really, this is up to your trading personality. The story of the market can be as complex or as simple as you like. It's up to you. And it depends on what you find as significant or what perhaps you find as not so important. Now, of course, trading is personal, and also the mix of indicators that you want to use to figure this one out, that's also completely personal. Everybody should use the indicator that work for you. That's a personal decision. We're going to show you which indicators we are using, of course, but ultimately that's a decision that you have to do personally. But do me one favor. If you do, make sure to use what we call complementary indicators, meaning you don't want to use two indicators which show you the exactly same thing, but perhaps in different colors. There's no real use in this. It's just extra clutter. What you want to do is you want to use indicators where each indicator will add a bit of extra and new information to it, which will help you to complete your market story. That's important. So you want to use complementary indicators. Now, how could such a mix of indicators look like? Let me show you. It's going to be very fast, and then don't worry, we're going to get to the platform in about 5 minutes from now, so please stay tuned for this. Okay, so which indicators do we use to identify what the current market story is? Well, the first one we use is our MA Rush indicator, an indicator designed to figure out what is the current trend all about. So you may look at this chart here, you can see, okay, well, price somewhat goes upwards. I could have seen this with my naked eye, but it's not as simple, because if in any bigger trend, there are always variations where price goes bullish, perhaps then bearish again, then bullish again. And knowing when these new phases within the overarching trend start and end is really important. You may have heard it, the trend is your friend. That's an old trading quote out there. It's a bit cheesy perhaps, but in my opinion, it is relevant because it is so much easier to trade with the trend than against it. Or in other words, what this also means is that the chances that the trend will continue are higher than the chances that the trend will reverse. Just keep this in mind. So we always want to trade with the trend, and knowing what the current trend is essential information for this. All right, so that's one indicator that we use that prints these labels on the chart, whether we are bullish or bearish. All right, next, what are the current market conditions? It may sound a bit high level, but besides trend, there are lots of other things that you should be looking at when it comes to the market. For example, let's check this one out here. So here, clearly, the trend is upwards. You can see it on the chart. I could draw a nice trend channel here. But within every uptrend, there are pullbacks and corrections. And knowing when these happen, it's very important. And for this, for example, we could use our trend radar indicator, an indicator which shows you whether, for example, we have a pullback within a current uptrend. You see these little red patches here? These are pullbacks. Level 4 pullback here level 3 pullback. We go 1, 2, 3 rows down. Here, level 1 pullback, and so forth. And as a trend trader, these pullbacks are important, for example, because you want to enter on these pullbacks. Why? Because it's going to be cheaper, your entry price. And secondly, you have less risk on the table because your stop loss is going to be closer by. Contrast this with entering all the way up here when things are extended. This would not be an ideal entry point. So we're going to use trend radar for this. And there are many other patterns that you can identify with this indicator. You're going to see in a second. Moving on, what's happening on other time frames? Perhaps you've heard this, word or this combination of words out there, time frame tunnel vision. That's not a good thing. In fact, that's a bad thing. It means you are too zoomed in on one particular time frame, most often your charting time frame. You may see, okay, well, this looks all nice and dandy here. We have a nice breakout, price really advances up, and you may execute a trade based on whatever you see on this particular time frame. But perhaps, I'm just saying it, on a higher time frame, or maybe 2 higher time frames, you could have seen that you would be running right into resistance here. Or perhaps these higher time frames, they're actually bearish. They would not confirm the trend direction in which you're trying to enter. Well, this obviously would not be such a good idea. This is why you should always consider other time frames. But then you may say, okay, well, that sounds really tedious and complicated. I would have to swap to different time frames, check all these different time frames out. Takes so long, I won't do it. Well, I agree with you. It would be tedious, and this is why we have designed an indicator. You can see it down here, which does this work for you. It will show you on all these different time frames surrounding your chart time frame what's going on, giving you basically a comprehensive picture of whether the trade direction you have in mind is actually also confirmed on other time frames. And on top of this, we're going to get to this also in a second, you will see a score here, a trend score, which goes from -20 to +20, showing you how bullish are we, or perhaps how bearish are we across all these different time frames? So we're going to get to this in a second too. So we're going to ask this question, and then two more questions we ask, and then I promise you we're going to move to the chart. Question number 3 is, where are key levels? I mentioned it before, knowing where, for example, resistance is, or where support is, and where is price in relation to these levels is absolutely essential for any trader. You must know this information. This is basic technical analysis. Why is this important? Let's just have a quick look on this chart here. These blue lines, these are resistance lines, and these reddish lines, these are support lines. What can we see here? Let's start over here. Price is approaching this blue line, approaching resistance, and resisting is called resistance for a reason. Price has difficulty getting through this level. So it goes towards this level, bounces off, goes up, bounces off, goes up again, bounces off. Then one more time, gets to this level, bounces off again, bounces off. Then down here to support. We bounce off support, always also to the upper side. And then eventually, nothing lasts forever. Of course, these bounces will not go on forever. That's also to be expected. Eventually, we have what we call a zone break. And knowing when these zone breaks are happening is also super valuable, because then you could anticipate, okay, after a zone break, price may continue to move in the direction of this break. So lots of trading opportunities are out here once we know where these levels are. Here we could play the short side, here the long side, and eventually once we had a zone break, we could play the bearish side here, anticipating, okay, price will continue in the downwards direction. But of course, this is only possible if we know where these levels are. So for this, we have developed an indicator called Liquidity IQ, which identifies these levels automatically for you. All right. Now, one last thing is, and this is the last question that we're going to answer or ask at this point, is where is the action? Meaning which price levels, I'm not talking about bars or candles, which price levels have the most contested ones. And this can be displayed by means of a volume profile indicator. Look at these big bars here sticking out, like this one here or this one here. These are high volume nodes. And oftentimes, these are the most contested price areas. And oftentimes price is actually stuck there for quite some time in these high volume nodes because you're not moving much around it. But once you power through it, once we get above it, then we often see an acceleration of price. You can see it here, price went above this high volume node and accelerated very fast to this area here, to this low volume node. Yeah. In addition, you can also see, okay, where are more buyers, if this is a bit grayish shaded here, or where are more sellers? You can use this information to also form an idea of what price may do next. And in fact, in the second part of today's webinar, we're going to show you how we can build a fully automated strategy based on this information, which is very promising as far as we can tell in terms of backtesting. So stay tuned for this a bit later. All right, so we're going to use all this information to form our opinion of what is currently going on in the market, with the objective, of course, we're doing this for one reason, with the objective to predict what may happen next. So how can we do this? How can we predict what may happen next? Let me give you an example. Okay, so here we have a couple of indicators on. You don't have to use all these indicators, which I just showed you, but just a couple. So here we can see we are bearish. You can see this bearish label here by our trend indicator. You can also see that price just bounced off the support level of our Liquidity IQ indicator. So price came down here. We bounced off support. We then went up. We bounced off this resistance zone, also indicated by our indicator here. And we just pulled below this high volume node. And we can see here on the right-hand side, there are more sellers than buyers as per our volume profile. So taking all this information in, what do you think is the next market move? What do you think may happen next based on this contextual information? Well, I already gave it away in the beginning. The trend is your friend. You can see it here. So we are bearish. So if you want to trade with the trend, the next market move potentially would be to go bearish here, especially since we are going below the zone of control. So it's going to be, our prediction could be price will decline based on this information. We could also say, okay, once we end the trade, we potentially can place our target right at this level here, which would be right above the support zone, where price may bounce off again. We don't want to give away profits. So place our target here and potentially put our stop loss just above this resistance level here. Because, once we go above resistance here, we may see a follow through further to the upside. And this is how we can plan out your trade. And guess what? All these bits and pieces that will help me to plan out this trade this way, these came from our indicators on the chart. This is what I meant. Once we are done with this and once we show these indicators, you will see how you can just do this in a very mechanical way because the indicators will do most of the heavy lifting. All right, now last piece here is the confirmation. So there's nothing wrong in entering right there already, but the more conservative traders around you or among you, they may want to see an extra confirmation. And this could come in by one of our signal indicators. Then we're going to go full circle. A signal indicator basically gives you an entry signal, either a long entry signal or a short entry signal directly on your price chart. And if you combine this with all the contextual information about the market story, you can get very compelling entries. And it doesn't stop there. We also have exit suggestions where you may exit your trade or perhaps book partial profits and so forth. So this is one example here of our 1 to 3 strike indicator. It's a trend trading indicator. We also have a reversal indicator called divergence cloud. And we have a breakout indicator called volatility crusher and other ones as well. But we're not going to go through all these details right now because now it is time to look at the platform itself. So Nicholas, are you there? And are you able to give us an overview of what this new MotiveWave platform looks like? And more importantly, how we can identify interesting trade setups in the process?
Yeah, definitely. Okay,
perfect.
So I'm going to share my screen.
All right, guys, and please ask questions. Now I'm going to look at these questions while Niklas is doing his demo.
Okay, so let me know when you could see my screen. I think you should be able to now.
1 second. Yeah, we can see it. Perfect.
So yeah, here's MotiveWave 7. If you're already using MotiveWave 6 and you haven't moved over to the beta of MotiveWave 7 or tried it yet, you might notice it's got a much sleeker look. And like Daniel said, there's a lot of nice convenience features. If I was on a micro contract, or sorry, an E-mini right now instead of a micro, I would have that cross-trading feature. And I think Daniel did a very good overview of all the different things that are possible. And there's a lot of different shortcuts you can use for all the drawing tools, and a lot has changed. One thing that we found nice for a lot of our indicators is, yeah, they seem to load a lot faster, which is always good. So Daniel, I think I'm going to jump right into what you were talking about. So taking the steps, finding out the market story, kind of the 3-step process.
Let's do it. Yeah, cool.
Okay, so we're going to start. So what was that first step? The first step was basically trying to find the story. And number one in that list of things to do is to have a look at the trend. And we always use an indicator we have called MA Rush. And a lot of our indicators, they're multi-time frame. And we'll see that in a second. To try and make sure we're always getting a bird's eye view, we don't have what we call time frame tunnel vision. So I'm on.
And so oh yeah, exactly. I was just about to say which symbol is this and which time frame.
Russell 2000 micro futures. So it's called M2K. So I'm on a futures chart. My data is delayed just by 15 minutes, but I'm on a 15-minute chart of this symbol. And the first thing I'm going to do to figure out, well, what's the general trend, without just relying on my eyes, what's a resilient reading of it? I'm putting MA Rush on. And I can see right now, okay, we had a little bit of a shift bearish earlier when the day first started in the early morning hours. And now we've been bullish since about, when was this? This was, let's just say that's around 11 a.m. It started to shift bullish. But the point of MA Rush is that it's looking at higher time frames. And the point of that is when you're looking at higher time frames relative to the chart, you're not going to get a lot of choppy buy and sell or bearish bullish signals, what we call usually noise or flat reversals. And we can see here on this chart, look, well, Nick, these are flat reversals, right? Bull, bear, bull, bear, bull, bear. That's a good point. But the whole thing with these indicators, they're totally flexible and they're smart and they have settings. So I'm going to come up here into my settings right here and I can shift something called the reference time frame. So right now I'm on a 15-minute chart. It's set to look at the chart time frame, which means it looks at 4 higher time frames than the charts, but it starts on the 15-minute and says, okay, what's a bird's eye view relative to that? I can see that, hey, on M2K, on this futures chart, there's a lot of flat action. So maybe I actually want to get a bigger bird's eye view. So I have a more resilient reading. So even though I'm on the 15-minute, I can come in here and say, hey, you know what? I want you to actually use the 1 hour as a reference time frame. So if I click that, we're going to get a much longer term view. We get a lot less, let's just wait for it to load, a lot less of those flat signals. And I think we can see more resilient trend signals where we're not getting those reversals like you would with a lot of MA crossover indicators. Instead, when we're looking at a higher reference, we could see it actually told us that things are starting to turn bullish. When was this? 3 days ago at the end, going into the close on, when was that? Maybe it was Monday, the 23rd. I think that might be correct. So it's been bullish since all the way back then. That's the start of what's the trend. Right now, clearly the trend on this time frame, it's going bullish. The next thing we want to know is, well, what's kind of the smaller term market conditions? What's happening on the shorter term? So MA Rush is big picture. If you had gone long right here, of course, when we dropped all the way down to here, that would look pretty bearish to you. But from a bird's eye view, things are still bullish. They really haven't changed. The next thing we can do, though, to get a look at those interim kind of movements is apply what we call trend radar, which kind of looks at more immediate and precise market conditions. So down here, Dino, if you want to give an explanation for this heat map and maybe talk about what happened right here and what
Yeah,
changed.
exactly. Just look at this little patch where price actually went down and trend radar became all red. You can see it here. All right, so that means we are in somewhat of a correction within this bullish move that MA Rush has shown us. But then look what happens afterwards. You see these little green areas creeping in trend radar afterwards. If you can hover your mouse quickly over that, yeah, they're creeping in like almost in like a stepwise fashion. They're getting more and more pronounced and getting deeper and deeper because it's a stair-stepping case where step by step this bearish correction is weakening, it's fading out, and in fact, it's reversing into an upwards move. And we use this information to time our entries or actually to understand, hey, this correction is coming to an end, and now the overarching trend might be resuming. That's exactly what you can see on this trend radar indicator.
And Daniel, I think another thing too, which I found interesting because it's like an early, usually this kind of a rare case actually, but we have these little dots down here, which we call stacking points in trend radar. And basically they come in like these little green dots here, or these red dots, they come in when all of the different period MAs that this heat map is looking at line up chronologically, which basically is just a sign that things are really starting to heat up in a certain direction. So we can see back here, when did these dots come in? They came in a reversal. It didn't as we were going down. This ended up just being a correction, which we might have been able to tell from, overall we're bullish. Doesn't mean we should be going short over here. But right here today, around 10:40, when is that? Yeah, 10:50 a.m., it started to pick up and it was saying, hey, the trend's starting to really heat up. And actually that happened exactly right here, preceding this move. But I think right here at this point in time, both of these indicators are telling us, hey, we're extremely bullish. And we might actually be starting to get a little overextended with all green, and we've been running up very fast for quite a while. But we can see back here, it's all about seeing patterns. Look at how long those dots continued just yesterday or just 2 days ago. This could just be the start, of a similarly long move upwards. The next thing we want to do, again, was look at what's happening on other time frames. So we have an indicator called TI matrix. And like Daniel was saying before, he had an example. We're going to see that when we build a strategy. You don't always have to put all these on. It could be a lot on your chart, but there's a lot of different versatility depending on how you want to trade, like what's your personality when you're trading. So the next one is called TI matrix. This one is really meant to give you like a bird's eye view, what's happening on other time frames, really at a glance. I'm going to wait for it to load here. And when it loads, it actually starts off showing these. Oh, there we go. We put them on values. Okay. And let me turn that on 1 second. Okay, and values, and let's put both. Let's have them both. Okay, so when it turns on, you can see there's all these different rows and columns. What this is, it's basically a matrix. It's a table. A matrix is kind of like the math version of a table, right? It's telling us all this different information, the trend, the sentiment, which is like momentum, where there's support and where there's resistance across a bunch of different time frames, the 1 minute, the 10 minute, the 30 minute, the 1 hour, the 2 hour. And this is automatically determined, these time frames. They're determined as relevant because we're on the 15-minute chart. That's actually an option. I'm saying, hey, just put it on auto. If you want to see longer term, maybe you're a swing trader or you're an investor, you want to see very long-term time frames like the weekly and monthly information, you can select those and it'll auto update. For here, though, this is pretty relevant. So what are we seeing? It's telling us on this chart, everything's blue. And in this case, with this color theme, you can change the color theme. The blue is bullish. So basically everything is bullish right now. It gave us a score. It has a score that goes up. Oh, look, we just changed actually a bit. It's got a full score of 20. It's telling us all steam, all engines, go ahead. Everything is bullish across every single time frame that it's looking at. On the 2 hour, the momentum is all the way up at 100. That's the maximum value. And that might play into what I was saying before about we might be getting a little bit of a retracement soon. Maybe it's a little too bullish for too long. But it also tells us where's the support and resistance levels. So we can see in the resistance column here, when I was looking at this a couple hours ago, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, it wasn't so bullish. And why wasn't it bullish? Well, because these resistance levels from the higher time frames, 2182, 2188, 2184, they hadn't been broken yet. We can see on the chart, we're currently at what price is this? Yeah, 2190. So we actually just broke above the highest time frame from a way higher time frame, the 2 hour, on this chart, which means it's pretty much in a breakout state. We're going to see when we look at some other indicators that actually visually on the chart. But just from reading this, I already know where are the important support levels on the chart. Here's 2178 support. That's on the 1 minute. That's not that relevant here. But on the higher time frames, look, we've got support from the 30 minute and 1 hour and the 10 minute all around 2150, a nice round number. And we can see we're above these resistances. And what happens when you break above a resistance? They act as support a lot of the time, or price struggles, resists to break through them. We can also see we have some volume weighted trend lines on the different time frames as well, which are useful. But we just got an awesome snapshot where I know where there's resistance, I know where there's support, and I can tell, yeah, things are very bullish. The next step, okay, so right now everything's really pointing in the same direction. I would actually say they're starting to point in the same direction at this point, a little too much for me to want to go long right now, because, I mean, we've got a maximum score, momentum is 100, we're really pumping up forward. Maybe we're a little late to the party for a long trade, and we want to wait for a retracement. And what we use for that a lot of the time is the trend radar indicator with what we call pullbacks, which are these dips right here in this heat map. When things start to dip, like let's find a good example over here. Here, so we're in a long-term uptrend. It's all green on the bottom row of this heat map, which means it's bullish. Look at how we dip into the red, then we snap back to green. That usually coincides with what would have been a good pullback entry inside of a trend. So things go bearish, they're selling, boom, it snaps back to green, good entry back into the trend for some more upside. That's what I'd be waiting for here if I was using just these indicators so far. The next one, though, is where are the key levels? So we did get kind of an idea here on the chart from TI Matrix, but we do want to get the visual representation and some more information, some more details. So where are the key levels? For that, we use an indicator called Liquidity IQ. And just like most of the other indicators we showed so far, it has a reference time frame. So we can tell it to look at a higher time frame than the chart. We often use it in conjunction directly with our trend indicator here, MA Rush. We're going to use it on the 1 hour, just like we did with MA Rush. So I want to see a long-term reading of where are some key levels on the chart. So right away, when we apply this, we see two things that are primary on the chart from this indicator. Number one are the green lines, and number two is the red lines or pink lines. And with all of our indicators, if you don't like those colors, you can hop into the settings and change them to a bunch of different themes, whatever you'd like. So we see the blue lines and the red lines. The blue ones are resistance, and the red ones are support. They're based on what we call volume significant pivots, and they're calculated across 4 different time frames. So again, it's not having time frame tunnel vision. And what do we see here on this chart? Well, we can see that we just broke through an extremely important resistance, which is even a resistance from that higher time frame reference, the 1 hour, which even includes up to like the 4 hour in the daily chart. So we just had a pretty big significant breakout. We can also see that our support is kind of far away. And it's not a coincidence. The support we see down here is, look, 2150, the resistance, around 2185, very similar to what we saw already at that bird's eye view from TI Matrix. And one thing, Daniel, I would like you to talk about this in a second, is we just had this breakout right here through this resistance. And by the way, guys, like there's a thing called repainting indicators. So what a repainting indicator does is it basically lies to you, which means once something happens on the chart, it then goes back in time and it puts a drawing there and it pretends that it knew about it beforehand. In reality, it only told you after the event happened. None of the indicators we're showing you here are repainting. None of them do that. So this line right here, these dots, they started drawing on the chart back here on this bar. So we've known about this resistance level since back then. Of course, you could have also seen these pivots with your eye, but the way this indicator works is it does ignore some pivots because they're not volume significant. And it does, I think, Daniel, you can speak to them. These liquidity levels do tend to be extremely important and telling. And we have a good example back here of a breakout. Maybe you could talk about what we call breakout retraces. We might see one over here.
Yeah, let's we live and die by these levels. They are so important. Knowing where these are, and knowing where prices in relation to these levels helps us to really qualify an entry, helps us to expect how big the move might be. Because if you're approaching resistance, maybe you only have a very small target and things like this. And look what happened there. Of course, this is hindsight, but it's a very beautiful example. We broke above resistance. That's a very bullish sign by itself. Price initially went up, you can see it there, but then something happened, and we call this the market fake out. The market came back, it retraced and corrected, but where did it go to? Almost to the dot, back to the broken resistance level, and then it took off. And why is this? And I believe you have heard it before, or many of you did. Support can become resistance, or resistance can become support. And the latter case is exactly what happened here. Once resistance was broken, it will change its role. Resistance becomes support, and you can see it here. Price initially went up, went down, couldn't go any further down because now it hit support, and then it took off again. A very classic pattern. In fact, we call this the zone break retrace pattern, which we like to trade all the time. So it's a very powerful and very telling pattern. And we were able to identify this by knowing where these levels are. And knowing what is the overall trend direction, which is bullish. So a classic move would be, or like an intuitive move here would be, once price comes down to this level, let's go bullish. From that point on, anticipating that this bullish move will continue.
And I think a good point I'd like to point out here, Daniel, is there's something a lot of our indicators have what we call panels or statistic panels, information panels. And this one, Liquidity IQ, in the top right of the chart, it tells us based on resistance and support, well, what's kind of the current trade setup? Here it's telling us there's a setup called a long break because we broke through resistance. We're in a long break state. And I wanted to say this because, you said, Daniel, it broke through resistance, then it came down almost to the tick, but it didn't come down right to the line. It went down a little bit below it, right before it came up. So a lot of traders, what they'll do is when they might have identified that level exists, but right as we came back down to that old pivot, they might have said, okay, I'm going to buy, but I'm going to put my stop immediately at that line. So if we go below it, it's going to break. A lot of the time, that's not going to work. The market doesn't go where you expect it to go. There's usually a bit of fudging around room, some leeway. And we have that built in. And there's a lot of years of experience put into this indicator. We got a lot of people that swear by it as well. So on this resistance line, you'll notice on the most recent or newer ones, there's these boxes, and we call these zones. And these are based on current volatility. What this is supposed to tell you is, hey, and they're based on volatility. So the higher volatility is, every tick that comes in, volatility changes, the size of these zones change. The more volatile price is, you can't expect price to come down exactly to it. You want to give it a range of tolerance. And one other thing, so if we came down here, we might go long, and the indicator will change its setup. If we come down, it won't say long break. It'll say, hey, now there's a long break retracement opportunity. It'll give you a suggested target and stop based on current volatility. These are things that you can also enable. We have some labels that can give them for you. I wanted to point that out, though, because look at this example over here. We broke through resistance. It didn't work out, came right back down. The indicator wouldn't have told you when it came back down to go long. It wouldn't have said it's a long break retrace, because we've noticed over testing that these kinds of breakouts tend to not work out when they come down that rapidly. So there's actually parameters in the indicator to make sure a certain amount of time has passed, the move is kind of validated before it comes back down. And these are all kind of configurable options in the indicator as well.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Yeah, let's move on to the last indicator. Then we have the full picture of what the market story is. And of course, then we want to see how we could have traded this. So let's go to Volume IQ next.
Yeah, so now the next one is we got the playing field here with the big resistance and support levels. We now want to see, well, what's kind of the microscope on the chart? Where is the action? And for that, I'm going to change. Let me just put our TI matrix on the bottom left, and let me change this. Oh, no, it's the same theme. Okay, so this is Volume IQ. This is our intelligent volume profile. And like Daniel mentioned, it does a lot of different things. So you might know standard volume profile. This one's kind of like a volume profile on steroids. So this histogram here is a reading of where volume has been over time. So between each of these price ranges, which are depicted by these bars in the histogram. How large these bars are in the histogram is a reading relative to the look back, how much volume actually occurred there. And the important thing for this is you can identify what are actually the zones of contention on the chart and what zones on the chart might actually act as support, might act as resistance, might slow price down. There might be a lot of trading there. And they're kind of turning points, and we label them with twos and ones. The twos are what we call zones of control. You might have heard of a point of control. We call them zones of control because we think that's a little bit more accurate. Price doesn't just go to one exact price level. It's usually a range. So the high volume areas are zones of control, and the low volume areas are what we call low volume nodes. What's the term we use? They're action zones, but I think they're acceleration zones. That's it. So when there's a lot of liquidity in an area, we might expect there to be contention. If price comes down to a high volume area, we know there's a lot of orders there in the past. It's not going to be so easy for price to move through them. Whereas areas where there's historically not a lot of volume, like here and here, price is probably just going to blast through them. There's not a lot of orders there historically, not a lot of liquidity. And we can actually see that on the chart here. Today, when price moved up, it moved up easily. When did it start bouncing and slow down? Right at this zone of control, which we already knew about in the past from this area back here. It's a decelerator. So let's maybe put all the information together, Daniel, and see what could we take away from this? What would be the story, right, with everything together?
Well, I mean, this could be also a question for everyone out there, but let's just put our facts together, which is given to us by these indicators. Just enumerate them and let's see where we're at. So MA Rush is bullish. You can see the bull label there. Trend radar just reverted from being in a corrective phase gradually to also bullish phase. Look at the last column there. It's all green, bullish. Once again, TI matrix, look at the numbers there. We have a trend score of 19. In fact, these scores can get negative too, but 19 is almost the highest that we have. Bullish. We are above resistance, which we just broke out. This could be a breakout trade. Also bullish. And then thirdly, look at what's right below our resistance level. There's the zone of control, which may act and often does, will act as another level of of support in this case, because we're above it. So putting all these together, what's our outlook here? Well, it's extremely bullish. Would I enter right now in this moment? Maybe not. Why? Because I love to see an extra piece of confirmation that this bullish one is about to continue. And, there's many ways you can do it. You can either look for price to accelerate, or perhaps you can look at some candlestick formations, or you can use an indicator, as we're going to show you in a second, a signal indicator, which will give you a concrete entry signal of whether to go long or short. We already know right now, hey, we want to go long. So let's put an indicator on, see which signal this indicator may produce.
Yes, and after we do, I'm going to put it on first, and then I want to show, because we're looking at what's happening now, but I want to go back and show a trade we actually took today using the same process. We put it in our Discord live, and it was exactly what we saw here on the chart. So I've applied one of our AI indicators. We call them divergence cloud AI. So this indicator is meant to find reversals or the ends of healthy pullbacks and trends. So basically good times to enter. And this indicator, I'm going to just move this down to the bottom right, is what we call a self-optimizing indicator. So when we applied it to the chart, it tested, you can see in this panel, it says it tested 180 different possible ways to configure itself automatically. And then it came up with one that had what it believes, or what it found to be the best results possible if you were actually trading the signals over the look back. And we can see it came out with a 1.93, almost 2 profit factor. On the long side, almost 3, which means if you had traded those signals based on the way it's looking at the chart right now, you would have made 3 times as much profit as losses historic.
And that's over 131 trades. It's a bit hard to read there, but the number next to trades in that box there, it's 131. That's a healthy number of trades, and this gives credibility to the statistics. Sometimes you only have 2 or 3 trades, then a profit factor number is not so significant. But in this case, it's a huge number, and it tells you, hey, this indicator is really nicely tuned into this particular symbol and time frame.
Yes, and in a moment, then I think I'll go to a chart and show Divergence Cloud on its own. But first, I want to show one thing right here, if you don't mind, which was about our interpretation there. Like you were saying, okay, very bullish, but maybe we want to wait for a pullback, right? One thing we can see here is if we pull back down to this resistance zone, not only might that act as support, but beneath us, we have a really nice zone of support here, which is the zone of control. There's a lot of people trading or buying and putting orders here. Clearly, there's no way for the market to lie about that. We can see that here in volume IQ. And it's good reward to risk. We could place a stop beneath it if we wanted to. But let's rewind. Let's say if we came back to today, I think I put the trade around 1 or 2, but let's just see. Let's see if we go back to 2 p.m. on June. Today's what, the 26th? If we were at 2 p.m., let's see.
This is the replay feature, MotiveWave. Yeah, let's check it out.
Yep, I think it might just take a bit of time to load here.
All right. And I'm going to look at some questions why this is happening. Oh, there we go.
Oh, it just has to wait for the indicators to load all the higher time frame. There we go. Okay, so let me just walk it forward a step here. And did this tier 2 only form here. I think it might have been a little bit further in the future. But while we're waiting, Daniel, do you want to go through some questions? And I'll pull up my example there for the Discord.
Paula was wondering, can we pull up Tesla and Google? Yes, we're going to do this towards the end of this webinar. So Paula, please stay tuned for this.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to get this example over with, Daniel, before we continue with questions. So I rewound it a bit, right, to 2:30. So if we had looked at this chart at 2:30 today, instead of as we did now, we would have seen most of the same stuff. MA Rush bullish. We weren't all the way up yet on the score over here in TI Matrix. We could see instead we had a score of 11. We still had to break through some resistances, which were right above price. Price was currently 2175, the resistance 2176, etc., etc. I noticed that when I was looking at the chart, and I'll show in Discord in a second. I noticed that, but I also noticed from volume IQ here that we were crossing that zone of control, what we call a tier 2 zone. And that's one of our favorite trade setups with this indicator. When we cross this, it is a sign that there's a shift in control. There's a lot of volume here, and once we break through it, well, the bulls are basically in control relative to the bears at this point. They've got the whole profile beneath them, and I saw that as a sign. Maybe we should go long. Easy reward to risk. I can use the information from Volume IQ to place a nearby stop, and we've got what we also call these zones, a lot of terms, but from Liquidity IQ, magnet zones. Why? Because the market tends to get pulled towards them. And I wrote in Discord at this point in time, I'm going long, showed the trade and said, we're probably going to break through this. There's a good chance we're going to go right up to this resistance. That's the nearest significant level. And that's ended up being what happened. And I actually closed that trade out a little bit before, but let me just show this right here in our Discord, which we're going to invite everybody to join later. Yeah, so at 2:55, about 25 minutes later than that, I said, hey, I'm going long. We're crossing that tier 2 zone, and we're probably going to go up to that resistance. I just took 3 micro contracts, but we just did that same process we showed you guys today ourselves, and we use it all the time.
Perfect. Yeah. And another thing, Nicholas, just keep this chart on right now. Knowing that resistance was coming up at the time of the trade right above you also helps you to time your exit. Of course, in this case, price went powered through it, but you can always expect that. So a conservative trader would have probably put its target right below that resistance level. Just take a quick scalp because we know resistance is coming up. Close the trade there. And then, of course, once we see resistance is broken, nothing would stop us to reopen it again at this point. And I hope this shows you guys how systematic trading can be, and in our view, should be. Because once something is systematic, it's repeatable. And once something is repeatable, it's optimizable. And it's exactly what we're striving for with our approach and how we look at the markets, and exactly why we are using exactly this combination of indicators, which we have just shown you. All right, perfect, Nicholas. Let me quickly grab back the screen, and sure. I want to share the charts, the slides, just for 1 second. If I can find my screen, there we go. Okay, perfect. So what you've seen so far is an overview of how our indicators are working on MotiveWave. And we didn't cover all the indicators, but I believe you get the pictures of how we're putting everything together. Now, before we move on and we get into like strategy building and automation, all these topics, I want to mention something to you because we're going to celebrate the arrival of MotiveWave 7 that we can now all use this week. by offering you for a limited time a 30% discount for all our flagship indicators for MotiveWave. I just want to put this out there so you know about this. And this includes all the indicators that you have seen today. MA Rush for trend radar for market conditions, TI matrix to see what's going on other time frames, liquidity IQ for support and resistance, volume IQ to see where the action is, and all our signal indicators as well. And all you need to do, this is very simple, go to tradingindicators.com/W. Of course, W stands for MotiveWave. And Niklas, perhaps put this link quickly into the chat box, tradingindicators.com/MW, and then simply enter the coupon code MW7 to get this 30% discount off our flagship indicators. This is not the end of this presentation, but I really wanted to put this out there so you guys are aware of it. If you have to drop off earlier, this is the special offer that we are having right now to celebrate the arrival of MotiveWave 7, the brand new MotiveWave, and also celebrate that our indicators, they're working so nicely on this brand new version. So tradingindicators.com/MW with coupon code MW7 to get this special offer. All right. Now, real quick, and then we're going to get to the strategy building part. This will be complemented as well with a couple of bonus offers, which everybody get complimentary. First off, you will not be left alone with any of our indicators. We have comprehensive training material for every single indicator available. It will be sent to you directly after you take advantage of this offer. So that comes with it. Also, you will be invited to our exclusive members only sessions, which are taking place every single Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, where you can ask questions, you're going to learn tips and tricks, where you can see our market overview, some live trading sometimes, and so forth. You will be invited to all these sessions. And of course, these are recorded, and the recording will be made available to you. You will also be joining our Discord channel, where we are posting trade ideas. Niklas just posted a trade there, which worked out nicely. And our members are posting trades there. You get trade alerts, you can ask support questions and so forth. This is also included. And last but not least, we will invite you to our next live trading session, which takes place on July 2nd, next week on, I believe, Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, where we trade the market open with our live money account. No demo account. We're using real money to show you how we use our indicators, our process to live trade the market. All right. So I just wanted to put this out there. And with this, let's move on to the third step of this presentation, strategy building. How can we automate our ideas so that MotiveWave will trade fully automatically for us? Well, just imagine, if you will, for a second, what if you could create a fully automated strategy without any programming skills, simply by clicking it together? Wouldn't that be cool? How could you automate or create your own advanced trade management? For example, scaling into a position, scaling out of the position, perhaps only managing the exit of a trade, but not the entry, because the entry is manually. Well, this is possible now with our strategy builder for MotiveWave. How can you find out how well an indicator really performs? Oftentimes that's guesswork. Well, with the strategy builder, you can create a strategy around it, backtest it in replay mode, and see how the indicator and its signals are really working. And last but not least, this can be done in just a couple of minutes. It's super intuitive. It's super fast. All right, so this introduces our strategy builder for MotiveWave, and we are super excited because now with MotiveWave 7, this will work, or this strategy builder will work with any MotiveWave edition. There's no more the need to have the MotiveWave Pro edition. This will now work even with the community edition, which is amazing. It's really one of a kind. There's no other strategy builder out there. That's the one that comes with MotiveWave, the only one out there. And it really pushes the limits of what is MotiveWave capable of. With unique UI elements, allowing you to quickly click together your strategy. And it can do very complex things too. It can create simple strategies, but it also can create very complex one. If you are thinking about a strategy with a trading style, with automated position sizing, with dynamic risk management, with trading along a plot of a moving average, for example, and so forth and so forth. This is all possible with the strategy builder. Also, you can scale into position, scale out of position, have multiple targets, multiple stop losses, and so forth. So the sky is your limit with the strategy builder. And how this works and how easy it is to create a fully automated strategy, Niklas will show you right now with MotiveWave 7. So Niklas, are you ready to take over once again?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
And just real quick
yeah.
before you do, Flavius is wondering how long is this offer valid? A couple of days. So this special offer is going to be valid for this week until the end of the weekend, I believe. So a couple of days, it's going to end at some point because well, it's a limited time offer celebrating MotiveWave 7. So please take advantage if you want. And now is the time to do it.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Can you see my screen, Daniel?
Just a second. Let me just stop sharing mine. And yes, we can. Go for it.
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is just introducing the strategy builder in general. So the strategy builder for MotiveWave allows you, yeah, like Daniel said, to just click together strategies very quickly. And we're going to click together a couple or one ourselves, and we're going to show kind of the possibilities of them as well. So the strategy builder, if you've already seen it before, it's finally going to be ready for, or finally is ready for MotiveWave 7. So the way the strategy builder looks is like this. You open it up, it's a window, it's a strategy in MotiveWave. You can create strategies, name your strategies, and you can load them back up again if you would like after you've created them. The main gist, though, of the strategy builder is you're able to hop into this tab called trading plans and create what we call trading plans. And you can create a bunch of them, and you can also create, as we'll see, associated targets and stops that we're going to use in the strategy we build. But basically, the idea is there's no coding, and any indicator that you have on the chart, whether it's one of our indicators, whether it's one of the built-in indicators, excuse me, whether it's one of the built-in indicators, so long as that indicator allows you to see its data or see its signals in the cursor window, the data window, you can reference that stuff and make up logic based on whatever an indicator is doing, how it's correlating with another indicator, and there's a lot of versatility. So when you're creating, let's say we're going to start off, let's say we wanted to, and you know what, actually, I'm going to take it one step slower. On the chart here, I have that indicator we showed before called Divergence Cloud AI, which is basically our reversal indicator. And the way this indicator works is when it finds what it calls a volatility momentum divergence, it'll signal either a short signal or a long signal. It's always optimizing to find what it thinks is the best way to do that. And it'll give you a trailing stop. And we can see these clouds here on the chart, or what it's named after, called divergence clouds, showing when there's a divergence. This is on the Russell. We can see it's been long here for a while. So what we're going to do is I'm going to create a strategy and walk through how easy it is to automatically trade these signals. So what do we have from the indicator? Well, right here, I've disabled another feature. There's another feature as well, a lot of stuff in these indicators called partial exits. They tell you when you can scale out of the strategy or when's a smart time to do that. We're not going to use partial exits. We're going to keep it simple, entries and trailing stops. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and build a strategy which will auto trade this for us. So let me just hop back in time. I'm going to use, oops, the daisies. Let me re-optimize us right here. Okay, so I'm going to start us back on May 1st, or a month a bit ago, and we're going to let it run and replay. We're going to build a strategy which will show us what would have happened if we actually traded the indicator in real time. And this is a self-optimizing indicator. It's got a feature called re-optimize automatically, meaning it'll find out what's the best settings right now for the highest profit factor. And then every time it closes the trade, it's going to run another optimization automatically to make sure we're still on the ball and looking at the chart as best as the indicator can. So I'm going to name this strategy my Divergence Cloud trailing strategy. Hop into my trading plans. So we said we wanted to trade the indicator like it is on the chart. It has buy signals, sell signals, and it's got trailing stops for both of them. So we're going to have two plans, okay? We're going to have a plan to go long, and we're going to have a plan to go short. Oops, go short. The next thing we need to do is we need to tell it, well, what do I need to do? What are my conditions across either the plots on the chart, my account values, like my P&L, maybe the cash I have in my account, and maybe there's some time conditions. What do we want to be true? What conditions do we need for us to then take an action, like go short or exit a trade or something like this? Let's go step by step. So for our long plan, go long. when do we want to go long? Well, we want to go long when one of these little arrows or triangles shows up on the chart. And in Divergence Cloud, that's called a long entry alert. So I'm going to click on my plot conditions. And you can see you can have a ton of different conditions. I think it's like 15 per plan. And you can use all different plots. And it's basically very scaling in complexity. We only need one condition here. We're going to keep it simple. So the condition we want is we want to know, and this is plots on the chart. So when I click this, I could reference the close price. Maybe I want to see, does the close cross above some moving average I have on the chart? For us, though, all we need is that one signal from the indicator. It's very simple. So I'm going to come down. DC is for Divergence Cloud. And I'm going to click on long entry alert right here, long entry alert. And I'll say when that is greater than 0, that means there's a signal, basically. That's the rule. If there's a long entry alert, then I want this strategy to take a long trade. So I click OK. That's the only condition I need here. I'm not using account or time conditions yet. When we get a long entry alert, I want to take an action. The action is I just want to go long. And what will my order size be? We got a lot of different options here. I'm going to keep it simple for this first pass. I'm going to say default trade lots, which in MotiveWave is 1, and you can set in your trading options here, trade lots. So when we get a long signal, this strategy is going to go long for 1 contract. That's what's going to happen. For my short, very simple. We just did that for the long entry. We do the same thing here, except we just do the inverse, right? We click on the short plots and we say to go short, not long. So for my condition here, I'm going to scroll down. When there's a short entry alert, when that's greater than a value of 0, then I know there's a short entry and I want to take an action. What's the action? I want to go short for my entry short. Now, if you've seen the strategy builder before, one new thing you might see on the chart is we've added this panel up here that you can expand and continue and expand or contract and expand. That makes it a lot easier to keep track of your strategy. So it's going to tell you when one of your plan takes a position. Well, what position does your plan have? Maybe you can have up to, you can have 4 different plans that take longs and scale you into the long side based on different conditions. Maybe you want to see which of those plans, what's the current outstanding position it has, because you can have each plan with 4 different targets and all this kind of complicated stuff. This is it's a nice ease of use feature. It's also possible now, great feedback or great suggestion from a user, that while the strategy is running, so even when it's activated, if you've used automated strategies in MotiveWave, you know that you can't edit the settings of a strategy once it's active. With the strategy builder, that now to an extent is possible. You can pause long trading, pause short trading. You can pause a specific plan. Maybe the market's flying up. You don't want it going short. Just turn off that plan, and then you can resume it when you want. This is a nice new feature on MotiveWave 7 with the strategy builder. So let me deactivate the strategy. So we did our first thing, right? We want the strategy to go long and go short. The next thing, though, is we wanted it to have trailing stops. So to do that, we hop over to the Targets and Stops tab. And we've got a stop 1 right here. I'm going to enable that. That's going to be our long stop. And then we want another stop. So I'll just click plus. We can also go down. You can have up to 20 different targets and stops. Stop 1 and stop 2. Stop 1 is going to be our long stop. So we click on that box. It opens this window, stop conditions. First off, we want to say, well, what is this stop for? Which one of our plans is this associated with? What's the associated entry plan? I can click this drop down. I'm going to select go long. So when I go long, I want this stop to be used. Next, I need to tell the strategy builder, well, what does it do? Well, this stop is going to be a stop order. It's not going to be a market order. It's going to be a stop order. And I also want the type to not be in ticks, right? There's options. Dollar amount percentage, you want it to be a specific price, but I want it to be based on that plot that the indicator is giving me on the chart, right? The trailing stop here. So I'm going to click plot based, expand this window, and I will tell it for an order size, hey, just close out whatever's left of the position, close the remaining plan position. The price input, this is now where we tell it, I want to use that line for my trailing stop. So I'll click price input and I scroll down to DC, long trailing stop. Very simple. Go long, use the long trailing stop. I want the order to automatically adjust so that it always follows that plot, and I want it to always trail. I don't want it to ever get wider. That's not going to happen in this case, but I'm clicking trail. I want it to follow that plot, and I want it to trail. So this is done. Now, that's all we need to do. I hop over to stop 2. I'm going to do the same thing, but for my go short plan. So go short, stop type, plot based, order type, stop. For the price input, I don't want it to be the long trailing stop. I want it to be DC short trailing stop. Follow plot. trail, we're done. Now, I initially told it, we're just going to go in for one contract, right? We're going to go in for the default trading lots. But a nice feature we're going to use here is we're going to use what we call risk-based sizing in dollars. What does this do? Well, when the trade happens right here, when we get that long entry trade, the strategy builder is going to know that this long trade is based or has a trailing stop that's based on this line. And I can actually click risk-based sizing and tell the strategy builder, well, how much money I want you to decide the position size for me such that I only ever risk a maximum of $250 on my trade if I'm using these lines as a trailing stop. So if I go long here, my trailing stop's further away than if I went long over here. So on this trade, I'm going to go in for less shares because I'm going to be still risking $250, but it's being dynamically sized based on how far away my trailing stop is. And that's actually a built-in feature of our AI indicators. That's what these numbers are here. You can set the max risk and it'll tell you, even without the strategy builder, it'll tell you how many contracts or shares can you go in if you're risking that amount. So I'm going to say 250, click OK. For go short, now I'm going to do the same thing. And I actually forgot one thing right here is I forgot to tell it, hey, for risk-based sizing, which we're using, which stop do we want to be referencing? Well, we want to use stop 1. That was the stop we used for that plan, stop 1. So in this action right here, for my short trade, I'm going to say, okay, I'm using stop 2, and I want to do risk-based sizing in dollars again. And again, let's just risk $250 to the short side as well. So with all this done, what should happen now is whenever a trade comes in, it's going to go long or short. It's going to decide a position size so that we always risk a maximum of $250, ignoring any slippage based on where the trailing stop is. It's going to enter us. It's going to place a stop order right where that line is. And then as that line follows the trade, it's going to move our stop loss down automatically. And, I set that strategy up properly. But if I didn't, one of the things we always do when you're going quick sometimes is you'll forget to do something like you forgot to set your entry type to long. And then you run your strategy and you're like, why is it not working? Well, you can now easily come up here in the panel and say, oh, I don't have anything set for my entry or my exit, non and non. So some very useful information up there. All right, so I'm going to go back, make sure I fix that. I want to go long. And with any luck, I've set this up properly. And we're just going to click, I'm going to optimize the indicator. Click on optimize, make sure I got re-optimization on. And we'll let it run and see how it does. And what we're going to do is show how we can use trade reports then to optimize our strategy. And I'll wait till we get a trade here so I can slow us a trade that doesn't close as fast. And by the way, in MotiveWave 7, when you run a strategy, the results of your strategy are now shown in the bottom right or wherever your trade panel here is. So we can see here the strategy down here. So let me keep running it. And I'll wait till we get a trade that I can take a breather and look at. Okay, so what happened here? Well, the strategy, let me turn on the trades so we can see them. Trades. The strategy went long for 19 shares. Well, the alerts, these indicators don't print until the bar closes. So when this bar closed, it confirmed there was a signal, a bar go. Before that, we enter on the open of the bar. And we have options in here. I should have set this to on bar open. I set it to on bar close. We're 1 bar late, not a big deal. We go in for 19 contracts. It decided that we're going in for 19 contracts because using this line as a trailing stop, that's the most we can go in for if we only want to risk $250. Back here, look, the stop loss was much further away from the entry. It only went in for 7 contracts because it says, hey, your stop loss is wide. You need to go in for less contracts if you only want to risk $250. As the trade progressed, it trailed the trailing stop up with that line. We could see at the current bar, the trailing stop is right where that line is. It's following it. And what you do now, we just defined a strategy in the strategy builder. If I wasn't talking, I could have done that in 2.5 minutes. And now we run it in replay mode. And then once we've done a run, once we've done a pass, we can see how it performed and check out a trade report. And what we're going to see is we'll have information that might give us a hint. How can we change the strategy to get better results if we were to run in real time? So if you've ever done any sort of optimization with building a strategy, you'll know there's something called walk forward testing, which is an idea that you basically optimize a strategy, but then you see how would it have actually done if I had been optimizing or using that approach in real time going forward. The cool thing about these self-optimizing indicators when you use them with the strategy builder is we're actually basically doing that right now because we're running a strategy in replay as this is how it would have run in real time. But because we have reoptimization enabled, every time one of these trades closes, it's happening so fast we don't even notice it. Maybe the chart stutters for a second, but the indicator's reoptimizing. It's running 180 tests to find what's the best way to trade the chart right now. Every time it closes a trade, then it trades with that going forward. That's why it might seem like, wow, those are nice results. But there's always room to improve. So we just ran it. This was from what? May 1st till, okay, the close of, I guess, May 6th. What you can do now in MotiveWave is open up what's called a trade report tab. So I'll click on trade report, and then I select the account I ran in, and let me just double check which one was that, replay one. And I can go to replay one and click generate report. It's going to tell us how did everything do. So obviously it did pretty well. Profit factor is high. Tell you your maximum loss, maximum win. We could see here, look what our maximum loss was. 286 on alongside 260 short, 286. What did we tell the strategy to try to lose as a max? 250. So because we're getting a fill, maybe the trade closed after the market reopened, a bit of slippage, pretty much $250. And of course, it had some nice winners. But the interesting thing here we can do is go to periods, which I like for day trading strategies. And we can select 30-minute interval. And what this will do is it'll tell us which periods in time did we make the most money if a trade was open there, and which ones did we lose the most. So if I sort by net profit, I can then take a look, and you'll notice this a lot of the time. I see this with day trading strategies. When did we lose a lot of our money? Well, a lot of our losing trades kind of clustered around, I would say, the early morning hours to the market open. So in our winners up here, we did have a winner at 8:30, but I kind of noticed that none of our winners are happening at 11 a.m., 10:30, and I know it's a small sample set, 10:30, 9:30. Instead, our losers are 9:30, 7 a.m., no, 6:30, that's not that bad, 10 a.m. I see in a lot of day trading strategies, 10 a.m. is where the losers happen. Why? Because the market's unpredictable right when the market opens or when the official stock market officially opens. So what we can do now is go back to our strategy and say, hey, if we're getting most of our losses around the market open, why don't we just ignore that time slot? So that's super easy to do with the strategy builder. All you have to do, I'm going to go back to the start of the period, and I'll let it run for actually a little longer than that time so we can take some questions because I don't think I have run it for all of May. We'll come in here, and in MotiveWave 7, you got to click this reset here to reset those when you're in replay, or it'll carry forward. Well, we can easily come into trading plans and click on the time conditions. So I only want to go long. I only want to go short when there's certain time conditions met. So you can tell it only trade on certain days of a week, or you can tell it only trade at certain times. So we said we want to wait till the market insanity is over in the morning. So I'm going to tell the indicator, I want to wait until, let's say, 11:15. Let's wait till 11:15. We only want to trade if the bar time starts at or after 11:15 a.m. And we only want to trade if the bar time ends at or before 6 a.m. So this basically creates a block of time. We're not going to be trading between 6 a.m. and 11:15 a.m. We're going to miss a lot of that pre-market news, volatility, etc. Now for the shorts, I'm going to do the same thing. Ends at or before 6 a.m. and starts at or after 11 a.m. Whoops. Ends at or after 11, I think I said 15. Okay. So with this done, now the strategy is not going to take trades in the early morning. So now if I activate it, and let me just also, I often forget this, once you create a nice strategy, save it on your computer. So I'm going to click save it. And now I click update, it'll be saved. The nice thing about these, you can actually share them with people. You send someone the file, if they have the same indicator, it's going to be able to load. So that's saved, just in case. Let's click activate, and now let's let it run. And we'll see here what happened. For a second there, I thought, oh, is the strategy not working? No, it's because right now it's 9:30 a.m. It's 9:45. It's not going to trade now. It's not trading in the morning. So we'll see once we get past 11:15. Oh, and whoops, I made a mistake. I saved the strategy. I just got to reload it onto the chart. Let's hop back in here. And the indicator is optimized. Very nice. Load this up. Boom. And then in here, what did we call it? We called it divergence cloud trailing strategy. I think so. Let's load that up. Okay. Alrighty. And let me just double check that's the same strategy that I just loaded. Go long, go short. Yes, it is. Good stuff. Okay. Okay, so we ignored that morning trade and we took the trade now that came in when? At 12:30. So it's working. It's taking the trades when the time conditions are met. And I'm going to let this run for maybe to the same time we did last time. We'll look at the trade report, and then while we take questions, I'm going to let it run after that to see, hey, does it still hold up? And the idea with these indicators is it does hold up because it's constantly optimizing itself. It's not intended to just kind of like do well at the start and then lag out, or lag in results. I mean, so we see no trades taken there. The indicator didn't even signal any. Okay,
Perfect,
where are we?
yeah.
We took that nice trade going into, when is this? 5 a.m. Should stop taking trades now after this one. Yeah, good.
All right. Yeah, Nicholas, that's great. Thanks for this. And let's look at some questions. So, the first question that came in, and I think maybe I just missed it here. Does this work with Renko bars? So the answer is yes, absolutely. It doesn't really matter what your bar type is. But wherever you can run in replay mode, it will work on. So yeah, there's no restrictions. It will also work with any of your indicators as long as they export or expose the information to the data cursor window. You will be able to reference these in your automated strategy.
Daniel,
Yes.
oh, do you want one more question? I just wanted to show something.
Oh, just maybe one more question real quick. Flavius wants to know, what is this time zone based on? It's based on the chart time zone, whatever you use. So this time restriction information, whatever is displayed down there on the chart, that's what's going to be used. Can it be said to avoid trading during high impact economic news releases? It will not recognize these automatically. You will have to, I guess, program these in when you know when these releases are happening using the time session or session time restriction.
Yeah, if you had that's an interesting idea. If you programmed an indicator that read a news feed and then put a label on the chart, you can program that in so long as you exposed it to the strategy builder. It's possible.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at the trade report. I can already see in the panel down to the right, it has a bigger P&L, but of course that's not the only information. Let's see what the profit factor is of that strategy.
Yeah, and before actually I stopped it here last time on May 6th, and this time I let it run for another day. So we'll take that into account. So we go into the metrics, hit generate report. Very nice profit factor. Okay, of course, because we took out the times that it was doing bad. No losers on the short side. The short average trade, 190, 40% profitable on the short side, obviously 100%. And not that many trades, of course, and that's a super high profit factor because we didn't run it for very long. So 23 trades, what we would do then is, hey, you just keep it activated and keep it running. I mean, this was running from May 1st. We could let this run all the way till today and see, hey, has it been working this well on the 5-minute for a full month or almost 2 months? If that's the case, the indicator's reoptimizing, we can realistically expect it to have somewhat similar performance going into the future if we start trading it live and activate it and let it trade live.
That's a good forward test. Exactly. Perfect. All right. So Nicholas, I'm going to take the slides back just for a little bit because, of course, as it always happens, this tech talk is getting, it's a bit longer than we expected. But of course, we do have another amazing strategy for you prepared, which is already predefined. I'm just going to show it to you how this works. But before we do, a quick reminder that also the strategy builder is included in our limited time offer for 30% off. So if you want to take advantage of this offer, the link is in the chat. Maybe Niklas put it back there. tradingindicators.com/MW. MW for MotiveWave to take advantage of this special offer. And all you need to do is to enter the coupon code MW7 at checkout. And if you're thinking, oh boy, the strategy builder is a bit overwhelming at first sight because there's so many different options, don't worry. With the purchase of the strategy builder comes I believe a 3-session bootcamp, which is very detailed, where we show every single feature of the strategy builder, how it works, how you can use it with your own indicators, with our indicators. You even get a whole bunch of predefined strategies with it. So this all comes with this strategy builder for MotiveWave at a 30% discount with this special offer celebrating the arrival of MotiveWave 7 in the world. All right, so with this, we're gonna go back and now we're gonna show you another strategy, which is really cool. It's based on our volume IQ indicator. Remember the volume profile here on the right-hand side. And we have actually written down the logic for the strategy. We're not going to build it right now with the strategy builder. I think this will maybe overwhelm you, but it's also not the point. We're just going to show you what is possible in terms of features with the strategy builder. So Nicholas, can you please walk us through the logic of what we're going to do or what has been implemented? Then we're going to run it in replay mode to show you how it actually trades.
Yeah, so the volume IQ strategy, if you could keep that slide up there, Daniel. So the biggest thing in volume IQ is those zones of control we call tier 2 zones. So it's going to take long and short trades. And what's it going to do? Well, there's actually something and more self-optimizing stuff that volume IQ does. It points out if it thinks there's a bias to the upside or downside. So for long trades, we're going to see, hey, is the bias upwards? We're also going to see, is price directly above the zone of control? So are we right above that zone of control? That's the setup that I showed before we put in Discord to happen on Russell today. Is that the case? And if that's the case, we're going to go long and we're going to use the lower bound of the zone of control as a stop loss. So if the shift in control happens to the bearish side, we're going to get out. Stop loss is going to be there. But the stop is also going to trail and follow, just like we did with the divergence cloud. We're going to make sure we risk $1,000 on each trade. Doesn't matter what you risk. It's more the ratio of reward to risk. And our target is going to be 3 to 1. So we're always going to have 3 to 1 reward to risk on the long side. And this strategy is a good example of, depending on the indicator you're using that follow plot feature for the stops and targets can be really surprising how versatile it is, because the zone of control changes as new data comes in and your stop loss is going to follow that. For the short trades, we're going to do the same thing, just inverse. Bias is downwards. We're below the zone of control. And we're going to be using this on a stock. I tested it today on like Microsoft, Google, MSFT. I'm going to look, we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to show Amazon. But these stocks don't tend to go down for as long as they go up, right? So for the short trade, we're going to risk only 500, half as much as the long ones. And our reward to risk only be 2 to 1. We're not going to expect us to always hit a 3 to 1 target. So same thing, just inverse the upper bound of the zone of control. And yeah, so it's going to take longs and shorts. And I'm going to share my screen here, Daniel.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's do it. All right.
Okay, so
this is already pre-built while Nicholas is sharing his screen. But as you will learn from the boot camps that come with the strategy builder, it is not complicated to build such a strategy. It's just going to be a bit too long now for this webinar. We're already 90 minutes in. So Nicholas, please take it away.
Sure. And when I ran this, I ran it from from May till today, but I'm going to start it back on January because I think it's better read. We're on a 15-minute of Amazon. When we do swing trading strategies with Volume IQ, I like to use the Volume IQ feature called number of levels because I want to take wider trades. It's not a futures contract, not as expensive. So we're going to use only 20 levels so we know where the big important zones are like this. You can kind of see it there. Zone of control, there's a 2. These are level 1 zones. So here's how the strategy works. Basically, I just explained it. It wasn't hard to implement 2 plans and 2 targets, 2 stops. So we'll let this run, and not to overwhelm here, but you have the cursor data window in MotiveWave, Volume IQ, everything you see with the human eye here, the bias line up here that tells us if it's bearish or bullish, these zones, these blocks, the amount of or the size of the nodes, if they're a high volume or low volume. When you hover your mouse, look at all that information. 1 second. All that information, is usable in the strategy builder. So you can really map out your idea with the strategy builder. Okay. So I'm running this. I'll see, maybe I'll have to reload my chart, but we'll let it run. And okay. So we're also only trading in real-time trading hours. So you'll see it kind of stutter when it goes through the extended hour session. Right here, what happened? We came up to this level 2 zone of control, went above it. We were still inside of it. So we weren't above it fully. We were inside that zone, but then we came down beneath it. And what was our condition for a short trade? There were 2 conditions. 1, bearish downwards momentum or bias, sorry, which is depicted visually by these red lines on the chart up here and down here. It's bearish. And the tier 2 zone of control is right above us. That happened back here. So the indicator went short, and it went short for a number of shares. Up here you can see short support plan, 89 shares, because that's the most we can go in if we want to lose a maximum of $500. It then placed our target 2 times as far away from our stop. So we have 2-to-1 reward to risk. And I'll just let this run and maybe we can take some questions, but we'll see. It performs very well. And I think volume IQ is one of our indicators with the most potential for optimization because there's so much information from it and it's so versatile. Right now, price, I want to see a long trade here, hopefully soon, but all of these different zones, they're dependent on how many levels there are. If we extend it to 100 levels, there's going to be 20, 30 zones, and these are all referenceable in the strategy builder. There's a lot of patterns you can notice, like with these seller blocks and buyer blocks. That's all information you can use. We're just not using it in this strategy. So we can see here, short, our stop is still up there. If a new zone forms nearby, it's going to move the stop down. It just did that. We hit our stop, we're short again, moved our stop down, got a trailing exit. Here we're long, stop out, okay. Short, trailing our stop as the zones change, trailed our stop up. And we could see it's like dynamic and versatile, which is nice because as doing this as a human, it might be a smart way to trade, but doing as a human, good luck paying that close attention to always be adjusting things.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, talking about the volume indicator on the right, we have recorded a masterclass on how to read volume profile information. It is nuanced and it needs some training and some explaining how this really works. But once you master it, it will be a tool that is indispensable for your trading. Nicholas used it today in taking this profitable Russell trade. We use it all the time. It's on our chart all the time. So it's very insightful. And you will get all the training that you need to master reading a volume profile. And of course, once you master it, you can set up strategies like this, which auto trade information from a volume profile indicator. All right, now let me go through some of these questions which are coming in. First off, will when I take advantage of this offer, will this also can I use it also for other platforms? This is an offer specially designed for MotiveWave. However, if you want to use it for other platforms, send me an email and I'll let you know what your options are to use it on a different platform as well. So that's simply send me a quick note. But today's offer is really a celebration of MotiveWave. So that's the primary objective. All right. Will this work on custom timeframes, like a weekly timeframe or perhaps a 9-day timeframe or something, which I can custom create in MotiveWave? Absolutely, yes. Anything MotiveWave has to offer can be used with the strategy builder. That's no problem whatsoever. Can you trade different instruments at the same time? Potentially with the cross trade feature. We haven't tested yet, Yeshi, but there is a potential for this. We'll have to check it out.
Daniel, just on that note, I mean, with the cross trading, we're not sure, but you could just open up another chart and put the same strategy there and enable them both, and you can do that.
Oh, that's a good. But of course, you can run it on multiple instruments at the same time. That's absolutely possible. Simply apply it to different charts with these different instruments loaded, and off you go. All right. Perfect. So let me just quickly go through some of the other questions here. Some of these I already answered. Perhaps let me repeat them of what these were. Can we look at Google and Tesla? Yes, Paul, we're gonna do this in just a bit. It's gonna, wrap up the strategy building session. And you can see here the the P&L is building up. This is a really cool strategy. And I think we're gonna actually feature this one in our next member session, which will take place this Tuesday. That's a really cool one. An idea that we had just today to automate this and turned out to be very promising. Great, Niklas. Perfect. So I'm gonna take back the slides again, and then we're gonna open up the room for questions and symbol requests. So one more time, a reminder, just real quick, while this is running, we're gonna get back to Niklas in a bit. A reminder that this offer, the celebration of MotiveWave 30% off, is available for all our flagship indicators. As you've seen before, Liquidity IQ, MA Rush, Volume IQ, our market conditions indicators, Trend Radar and TI Matrix, the Power Bundle indicators, and so forth, including our strategy builder. All these are discounted by 30%. And all you need to do is to go to tradingindicators.com/MW to get to our product page for our MotiveWave indicators and tools, and then enter the coupon code MW7 at checkout. All right. So let me see if there are some questions regarding this offer. And of course, this comes with all the training that you need to get fully started with it. And you will be invited to our exclusive member sessions, which are taking place every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And you will also be invited to our next live trading session, where we not only trade in replay mode or with demo accounts, we will actually trade our live and real money in those sessions. We're going to trade the market open on July 2nd. All right. So that's that. And let's take some symbol requests. So Niklas, please take it away one more time, and then we will take some symbol requests to wrap up today's session.
Sure.
So
Okay.
Tesla was requested, and what was the other one? One
Google.
second, I believe Google. Yeah, perfect.
So
take it away.
Check our results here. Very nice results. Yeah, we definitely want to feature this one at our next talk, because for 3 months, I want to let it run for maybe a year and a half. Okay,
Perfect.
so let's take a look. We didn't have a time frame suggestion, did we?
Let's just look at it from a daily time frame, I guess, to see what's going on from a swing trading point of view, and then we can look at maybe some intraday too.
Okay, so I'm going to hop over. Let's look at Tesla first. I believe Tesla is near what we called. Oh, is my MotiveWave freezing up? Let's give it a moment.
Yeah, I think it was Tesla and Google. Yeah, maybe a bit of freezing, but this is, it's a beta version and something that may happen at times. There we go. All right.
Okay. Oh, you know why? It's probably because I had replay on still with the strategy running while I did that. Okay. Tesla. So the first thing we do is, we want to look at the trend, right? So we're going to put on MA Rush. It's going to adapt to the chart time frame. That means it's even going to look at the weekly and above. We'll wait for that data to load. I don't have any data for Tesla cached, so that might take a bit of time. Okay. So scrolling back, make sure we're still big sweeping trends, eh? So still bullish. Going bullish back at the end of 2024, of course, at the right before the election. And we fly up, come all the way down. We're still bullish, making a little bit of a lower high here, but some higher lows.
Let's look at the levels next. Let's keep it a bit, shortcut it a little bit.
Liquidity
Let's put
IQ.
Liquidity IQ on. That's right. Okay.
Wait for this one to load.
Yeah, let's look where the key support and resistance levels are with Tesla. So the outlook is bullish, but let's see if we are running into support or resistance right now once this loads. And just a little heads up, the initial load of the indicator, if you have never opened that symbol before, takes a little bit longer because MotiveWave is downloading all this historical data to your computer first, which can take a couple of seconds. But once done and once it's in your system, it will be very fast.
Yeah, and this is taking a little unusually long. Maybe it's because I have none cached, or it could just be a bug with the beta, but we'll see. Hopefully it loads in a second.
It's just the initial load, yeah. Let's open up Google at the same time.
Sure.
While this is loading.
Okay, let me swap this over to
optimize it a little bit.
The daily charts. Okay. And we can see how fast that loaded on Amazon because I've been looking at it. Google, is that or is it Alphabet? What is it? Google.
I think that's the right symbol. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is, whoops, I went to the 1 minute. Let's go to the 1 day. Okay. Oh, 1 day over here. Oh, time span. My mistakes. Yeah, I'm still learning MotiveWave 7. I wasn't clicking on time frames. I was clicking on time spans. Okay, so here's the daily chart. So let's load up our indicators here on Google. MA Rush. And then at the same time, I'll load it with Liquidity IQ. Let it load. See, okay, our stuff's loaded on Tesla. And I think that's the speed benefit in MotiveWave 7 is it's caching it better. So once it loads it, then it's not going to have to reload it. So here, okay, so what do we see on Tesla? Of course, we're still bullish. Really nice important information here from Liquidity IQ. So telling us there's not really a clear setup up here, but we can really easily see what's nearby. First of all, we have a resistance zone right above us around 360, 370, let's say. We're currently at 326, and beneath us is an important liquidity zone that's defined by two different liquidity levels, resistance levels which were broken, 290 and 300. Basically, let's say the zone, it tells us, it collects it together for us, basically the zone between 287 and 312, let's say. So we're bullish. We just came above a zone. We had a retracement down to it. We tried to push up, didn't push up past the previous high. Now we're still chilling above it. Let's put on volume IQ.
Yeah, it's like a classic consolidation pattern in Tesla. But let's see if volume IQ gives us some additional clues. All right, that looks good. We have this big high volume node there from the volume profile indicator below price, which could be an additional area of support. And
We
my
also see
outlook here,
this here. Yeah.
yeah, an acceleration zone.
What's your outlook, Daniel? Sorry to cut you off.
My outlook would be a bullish outlook. So uh potentially a retracement down to this broken resistance level. That could be our first entry. And then if this one does not hold, I would scale into this position further until we hit that high volume node just below, which I believe will act as additional support in this case, and this could accelerate price to the upside afterwards. So that's my Tesla outlook because Rush is bullish. We are above resistance, and I would like to give this trade two chances to work out. First would be okay, this resistance level, which now is acting as support, will hold. And secondly, if it doesn't, then we have our second line of support down there at this big volume node.
And once you see, if you get volume IQ and you watch the master class there, I think it's like 5 hours or something, or maybe 3, but I think it's quite long. You're going to get to read this a lot faster if you're new to volume profiles. So like I agree with Daniel. What I see here is look where we are. The indicator is actually telling us, see this red zone? It's red because it's telling you it's probably going to sell through here if we enter there. There's not a lot of volume there. If you look on the right, not a lot of people stepping in to buy here. In fact, just above us, there's a lot of sellers. It's a sell zone, millions and millions. What is that? Is that 1 billion shares have been sold right there? A lot of people just sold on this turn down.
Yeah,
Historically, look what happened the last time we were here. People sold down.
it's
I
yeah.
would think, I would think we're going to come down to this zone, but not really. Wouldn't be, expecting that it's going to hold until we get into all these buyers leading down to that zone of control, down here, like
It
Daniel was saying.
it looks to me that after this big move up, Tesla is consolidating right now. It's going to be in the sideways, like broad sideways channel on the daily time from here for quite some time. But whenever it nears any extreme of that sideways channel, I think this could be a good opportunity to either short it if it's on the upper extreme or potentially to go long at the lower support levels.
Agreed. And now we'll look at Google.
Yeah, let's do
Let's see what's
Google and then
happening
let's
there.
take it back to the
Oh, why aren't these showing? Let me just try to trigger, maybe because I was on the other chart. Okay, I just have to trigger something. Get them to upload or update. Okay, now it's going to load Liquidity IQ. Good. Okay, and at the same time, I'll put on Volume IQ
all
while
right.
we wait for Liquidity IQ to get its data.
That's loading. And let me just quickly see if there are some questions. Now would be the time to ask because we're gonna look at this symbol, perhaps another symbol afterwards, but then we will be wrapping up this session, which was awesome. A good session. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me just quickly see what questions are coming in while this is loading.
It's loaded.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
So, wow. Scrolling back let's get some labels in. Okay, so we went bullish back in the start of February 2023, and it has still been bullish since then from an MA Rush perspective. So we are bullish. Volume IQ, look at this is the usefulness of Volume IQ. So we've been bullish since the start of February 2023 on this symbol. Surprising, it has not reversed. Liquidity IQ, we aren't, except, actually, this is so beautiful because look at this, Daniel. Right now, we're still bullish, but price came down right here. Okay, we came back up. It reversed off of basically these two levels and this high volume node down here. It bounced. Where did we just recently bounce, though? We came up to, what is this, 182. We hit this seller block. Traders started selling. We dropped right down. Where did it finally bounce? Off this old resistance, old support level right here. We bounced off of that as well as this tier 2 zone, the zone of control. So just like we were saying with Tesla, where if we came down, we would expect it to stop there, we would have been saying the same thing back here on Google.
Yeah.
If we came down, we're probably going to bounce off there.
And I think that's probably also the reason why the strategy based on the zone of control of volume IQ was so successful, because these patterns, they seem to occur over and over again. I believe, Nicholas, you had run the strategy on different symbols, and it was the results were similar. Yeah, great.
Yeah, and different time frames as well, which is nice.
Perfect. Yeah, so definitely also a bullish outlook on Google. It seems also overall a bit in the consolidation pattern from this big run up, which these patterns may take months or sometimes even years to resolve, but overall bullish for sure. A bullish outlook here on Google. All right, so I'm going to get the screen back one more time, and then we will wrap up this session. So one more time, the repetition: if you want to take advantage of our 30% offer, which we don't have very often, so but we thought MotiveWave 7 is a good reason to give a 30% discount. Simply go to tradingindicators.com/NW. Don't forget to enter the coupon code MW7 at checkout to take advantage of this offer. All right. Just real quick, what else is included? You will be invited to our weekly member sessions, which take place every Tuesday at 12 p.m. The next one is scheduled for next Tuesday, July 1st at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. All these sessions will be recorded, and you can watch them afterwards should you not be available, of course. And on top of this, you will also get access to our Discord channel. The link will be sent to you shortly after your purchase. Once again, it's tradingindicators.com/MW. Also, our next live trading session with real money, not demo accounts, not prop account, our real money account, will take place on the next day, on July 2nd at 9:30 a.m., where we will trade the market open with real money, and you can follow along how we set up our charts, what trades we take, which setups we consider, and so forth. So this will also be included. And then last but not least, you will get comprehensive training material for every single indicator that you purchase on this discount. So we're not going to let you alone. You'll be taken care of. We answer all your questions. You'll be invited to all our support sessions, training sessions, and so forth. With this, guys, if there was a question which I left out, I apologize how many questions that came in, but you can always reach out to us via our homepage, tradingindicators.com. Click on the main menu. There will be a contact item. Click on it, enter your question into the contact form, and this will end up directly in my inbox, and I will answer every single question personally. With this, I hope you enjoyed this webinar. It was really nice to have this MotiveWave session, as mentioned before, one of our favorite platforms, one of the very first platforms that we developed indicators for. So we're super grateful to the guys and girls at MotiveWave, which have been super nice to us. We have a very good collaboration with MotiveWave, and we highly recommend this platform. All right. Have a nice evening, everyone, or a good morning, or wherever you are. And this recording will be posted soon. The link will be sent out, and hopefully talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for attending. Thanks, Nicholas. Thanks, Omar.